it's fine, but we don't have to discount the people who do that either, because that is their shraddha. They are physically taking the time to do that, which we are not. So वो अपने में है, हम अपने ढंग से, अब सभी अपने अपने ढंग से करो. और in the end, physical activity counts less, mental the more, obviously, because a person who is doing a physical action, उसका mind उसके पीछे नहीं है, उसका कोई मतलब नहीं होगा. बिकॉज अगर वो प्रसाद ऑफर कर रहा है और उसका ध्यान यहाँ वहाँ है, एंड इट्स लाइक देन यू आर नॉट ट्रांसफरिंग दैट लव. सो व्हेन आई एम फिजिकली डूइंग इट, माय माइंड बेटर बी इन इट ऑल्सो. एंड इफ आई फॉर सम रीजन आई कैन नॉट वांट टू डू इट फिजिकली, विच इज़ फाइन, मैं पूरे मन से और श्रद्धा से करूँ, अंडरस्टैंडिंग दैट एवरीथिंग इज कम फ्रॉम गॉड, दैट वर्क ऑल्सो. मानस पूजा इज वेरी बिग थिंग in Vedanta, because lot of times they say that there is a whole Manas Puja that even in Chinmaya Mission they do it, and they say when Bhagwan comes to me, how I will present myself or how I will take care of him. So then Manas Puja में तो वो रत्न जड़ित उसके लिए सिंहासन पे बिठाएंगे उनको, बिकॉज हमारे आचार्य कहते हैं कि अगर भगवान को बिठाना ही है तो ऑर्डिनरी पे क्यों बिठाए, मानस पे करना है, तो रत्न जड़ित सिंहासन पे बिठाओ उनको, क्योंकि मन से तो हम लोग सबसे बेस्ट चीज़ें ला सकते हैं. So we can take time to do the mental puja. There's no problem at all. It'll give you the same result. Okay. Anybody else? Any comment or question or anything on this particular topic?
Manas puja means mental puja?
Yes. So suppose if I'm on a trip, I cannot, some people love to do this physical puja, right? They find a lot of joy and all in it. If you cannot do it, then they do Manas puja. Or when we are sitting in the Yagna Vedi, we just have some limited stuff, but we want, hey, I want to give this also and that also. You can do Manas puja. Someday we will maybe bring those verses because they are very beautiful for the Manas puja. Okay. So I'm going to go to Kathopanishad. And right now we are just studying the background. We have not touched that yet, but I think this is a very, very good background, because then we'll have a better idea. So in my book, it is page 2, but maybe whoever has a new book has already put the mark where we were last time. We have to read from the paragraph, even the Ikka driver.
It is page 3, Roman 3 in my new book, this one.
So Roman numeral, page 3. And who is the volunteer?
Divine. 2 words on Kathopanishad. Page 3. Even an Ikka driver. That is...
Yeah, that's the paragraph. And who wants to read it? Okay, Shireen.
Even an Ikka driver who attends some lecture of Vedanta on the roadside
can you just hold on 1 second? Sorry, because we have some new people. I just wanted to, I forgot. Just give a slight background so that we have a context. Suddenly we start reading. So we are doing Kathopanishad, and a lot of stuff from Kathopanishad is in Bhagavad Gita. So I think it'll be a great journey, because it will enhance our studies of Bhagavad Gita, because certain things literally verbatim has been taken from Kathopanishad. And this message divine is, it says 2 words on Kathopanishad. It is Chinmayanandaji's Guru Tapovan Maharaj has written this to kind of inspire us to study Kathopanishad. So he just mentioned few things, and I will just summarize in very brief the previous couple of paragraphs that we finished last time. So he basically says the root cause of all misery is our ignorance. Avidya, he calls it. And then he's saying that when we study any scripture, intellectually we all are capable of understanding, who is God, and who. If you do a systematic study for a while, you will get the picture. And we have seen the journey in this class, that how we know, a lot about, nature of God and Sat Chitanand, and, Satyam, Anantam, Brahma, and all that. But he's saying that only knowing intellectually, please don't stop there, because you are not going to get the benefit. Okay? And it's something like, I want to learn swimming, but if I just theoretically know how to swim, it's not going to do anything. I have to jump in the water and experience it. So, and know how to swim. So he's saying that keep at it. And he also said that one who attains the Atman becomes happy. So all the miseries are gone, no matter what the circumstances is. That does not matter. Okay? And he also said that there is this verse from Kathopanishad, only he has taken it. Uttishta Jagrat Prapya Varatni Bodhataha. Arise, awake, sitting at the feet of the Mahatma, the realized souls, know it, realize it. So you need a guru, to guide you for this path. And the other last part that we read before we go to our next phase is how do we it's not a part-time thing, this spiritual stuff. It's like a Ganga flow, constant remembrance that I'm that pure, blissful, birthless, deathless Atman. So this continuous flow will culminate into Gyan, and that is real Gyan, and that's the one that will destroy the ignorance and will have the perpetual. Not this part, kabhi kabhi mujhe yaad hai, kabhi nahi hai, then it's not going to happen. So we are kind of that kabhi kabhi wali stage mein. And by constant satsang, by constant learning, we will stay more and more into that mode, and then we will get it. And I was just thinking of this analogy about swimming, that sometimes we say, no, why they keep repeating this Shastra, the same thing, 200 times, 200 different ways. People even get bored of listening. Hey, but we don't have the experience yet. So that's why they keep repeating that maybe, heat dete raho, one ek din fire burn hoegi. That's the stage we are at. We are giving ourselves heat slowly by, being in this constant contemplation and satsang. Then one day the fire will ignite, So that's how kind of the analogy is. So with that background, we can read further now. Sorry, Shri, now you can go.
Even a car driver who attends some lecture of Vedanta on the roadside can have the knowledge of the Atma for a moment. Though he hears that he is Atma, he cannot think of it again for himself, as his mind is so deeply rooted in his body and body idea. Atma idea or self-knowledge has no place in his mind. His greedy and lustful mind, with hundreds of desires, hatreds, ambitions, and anxieties, cannot think of the Atman continuously, even for a few moments, without having the body consciousness, I-ness, and my-ness. It burns and boils in the waters of its clinging attachments. Trishna.
Mm-hmm.
Atma can be thought of, realized, and remembered only by a calm, quiet, and concentrated mind, and not by a greedy, anxious, and wavering mind.
So here, he has just spelled it out for us completely. Okay?
If those who hear the discourses on the Kathopanishad are intelligent, they can have an idea of the self. That is, they can acquire an intellectual estimate of the Atma in their understanding. But one cannot be an Atma with a realized soul by such a knowledge of the self. Because that knowledge is not perfect, it is only a conditional knowledge of Atma. If the mind of the hearer is faithful, pure, concentrated, and calm, then only it can realize and get established in pure knowledge, jnana, by continuous remembrance of the Atma. Therefore, the hearers of Vedanta who want to acquire perfect jnana, which alone can eliminate ignorance and give eternal peace and happiness, must have a pure, calm, and concentrated mind. Hence, the mantra definitely advises.
Okay, so let's analyze a little bit over here what he's saying. So firstly, he's just talking about that we need a calm, quiet, concentrated mind and not greedy, anxious, and wavering mind. Okay, and then he's being very kind by saying that Ekka driver means it's like one of those क्या बोलते हैं, rickshaw type of driver he's talking about. But it applies to all of us that if we are deeply rooted in just body consciousness, constantly thinking about, me, mine. One of the saints said it very nicely. He said, there are only three important people in my life: I, me, and mine. So it's like if we are in that kind of mode, then nothing is going to work. You might hear it and say, great discourse and great this thing is not going to do anything for you. So is I-ness and minus जब तक नहीं जाएगा. और then we studied Bhagavad Gita just now. कितना ठोक बजा के उन्होंने बोला, yagna spirit, team spirit, you have to think of everybody and all that. It's the same thing that if I stay in I-ness and minus, I'm not going to get this. And then he's saying he boils and burns into clinging attachment of Trishna. Trishna is or mil jaye, Greed or Trishna is like never satisfying kind of. If I have 5 million, I want 20 million. If I have, 100,000, I want 500, whatever, And if I have one car, I want two. I want better. That's called Trishna, no end to it. So he's saying that that's what we need. And then there is word Atmavit. That intellectually you can understand what Atma is and all, but you're not Atmavit, a realized soul. So you yourself become. So because if we are realized, then it will show in our action. It will flow from us. So the fact that it's not, so we are not there yet. And then what do we need? We need our mind to be calm and concentrated. And now to get that perfect gyan. And he's going to tell us now how to get this. Okay, that's the next shloka. And this shloka is actually from Kathopanishad only. And it is chapter 1, Valli 2, verse 24. Na virato duscharitat, na shanto na samahitaha, na shantamanaso vapi, pragnane namapnuyat. And so now you can read the meaning. Go ahead, Shireen.
One who indulges always in vicious actions and desires of various sensual enjoyments, and who has got no concentrated mind, cannot attain Atma through knowledge.
So he's saying basically that indulgent always in vicious actions, selfish actions, and desirous of sensual enjoyment constantly. It's like if something comes to you and you are enjoying, running after it kind of. For us householders, we have to see in the right context, constantly running after that would be. And who has no concentration of mind, because when we sit in meditation or, studying Bhagavad Gita, if I don't have a concentration of a mind, I'm not going to get anywhere. So that's what he's talking about, okay?
This is the reason why renunciation, Vairagya is considered as an unavoidable sadhana for Brahma Jnana everywhere in Vedanta. Vairagya can destroy all sorts of desired dirts and make the mind pure. No other Upanishad has so clearly described the full and true nature of healthy Vairagya as Kathopanishad has done. Nachiketa, the glorious student of Brahma Vidya in Kathopanishad, was an embodiment of Vairagya. No such great adhikari for Brahma Vidya is ever so exhaustively narrated anywhere in the whole Upanishad literature.
Okay, so here he's talking very much about Vairagya. So Vairagya is like rising above likes and dislike both. Because we have this confusion about Vairagya means, I should give up everything. That's not what it is. It is like whether I have it or not, it should not affect me. That's what it, rising above both. Because if you hate something and you like something, both have a problem. Okay? And then it reminds me of, and I'm sure Gita over here will remember too, that verse in chapter 6 when Arjun says, my mind is so like a wind, I can't control it, all the time thinking of things. How do I do it? So he said Vairagya and Abhyas. First is Vairagya and then Abhyas, practice. But Vairagya is, withdrawing yourself from the clinging attachment to things. For our purpose, I think if we just remember that, because sometimes we get totally confused. Does that mean if I have the money, I should not buy this or that? That's not what it's saying. Balanced way. Enjoy what God has given you by sharing with others and living in harmony and all that. But basically, it's like vairagya is, you have to, as we study Bhagavad Gita, is going to open it up more and more. Our confusion of vairagya will go and we will understand in the right context. Okay, so just remember that. And he's saying that it's an unavoidable sadhana for Brahma Vidya, so it's absolute necessary. So it is in our interest to learn. And in Kathopanishad, he's saying Nachiketa was a student who was embodiment of Vairagya, because whoever knows about this Nachiketa, that's fine. But if you don't know, what happened was, remember I gave that brief story that father got angry and said, I give you to death, like in modern language, go to hell or something. So he decides to go and meet death, Yamraj. And तो जब वो जाता है ना यमराज के पास, तो for some reason Yamraj was not available for 3 days. Okay. And so उसके द्वार पे पहुंचा तो बोला यमराज तो है नहीं यहाँ पे, बिजी है, गया होगा दूसरे लोगों की जान लेने के लिए, we don't know क्या कहाँ गया था. But he waited for Yamraj for 3 days and 3 nights with a lot of patience. He didn't go there and demanding, hey, I've come here and he's not here, nothing like that. A lot of patience and all. जब यमराज वापस आए ना, तो उन्होंने देखा एक प्यारा सा बच्चा यहाँ पर खड़ा है, 3 दिन तक भूखा प्यासा खड़ा है मेरे को मिलने के लिए. तो उनको बड़ा थोड़ा गिल्टी फील हुआ. तो उन्होंने बोला कि why don't you ask for 3 boons, because you have come to Yamraj, So then also when he was asking and boons, so we will go to the story when it comes. तो यमराज ने उसको ना काफी प्रलोभन दिया. He started asking for Brahma Vidya in his 3rd boon. Okay, कि मुझे ब्रह्म विद्या चाहिए. तो यमराज ने बोला, अरे उसको छोड़, बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. I will give you everything else. Don't ask for that, because it's like too difficult. तू साम्राज्य ले ले, ये ले ले, वो ले ले, beautiful women, तीनों लोगों का राज्य, and all the material things he gave. In 1 second he would just give him everything. And this little boy said, I ain't getting that, because I know that it's all temporary. No matter what you give me, everything for eons you can give me, it's not going to last forever. I want that stays eternal forever, that I never get unhappy, things like that. So that's why they are calling him an embodiment of Vairagya. So this is a symbolic thing, that either you want these little things in life, or you want that ultimate thing that will give you everything. Okay, so that's why they are saying that. Just wanted to clarify that story so we know what he's talking about. Okay, and then this is that this part of the verse, Tateva Vahas Stava Nritya Gite. And then here, this is from chapter 1, Valli 1, 26. Okay, go ahead, the English part of it.
You may keep yourself these carriages, these singing and dancing girls. This was the prompt and immediate reply to his Acharya, Lord Death, when these things of sensual enjoyment were offered to him. Yamraj utterly failed in his attempt to make Nachiketa covetous. By Vairagya and by practicing meditation, one's mind becomes slowly concentrated. Concentration of mind is absolutely necessary for the direct perception and realization of the self. By attaining yoga, the concentration of mind, one can realize the Paramatma, and yet established in the eternal bliss, the absolute perfection, beyond all pleasure and pain. What is the nature of the yoga which is described here as the unavoidable sadhana for the Brahma Jnana? Shruti very clearly says.
Okay, so here, so one thing is established. I remember पहले उन्होंने बोला था कि we need a concentration of mind. So if we are covetous, greedy, or want things and this and that, दुनिया में, तो हमारा ध्यान बढ़ जाएगा ना, obviously. And it doesn't have to be material things, because we are at a stage, we don't care that much about material things. Everybody's got enough. Okay, it's the other emotional thing, or relationships, and all those things come under that. I want this perfect relationship with my friends, and even that comes under desire only. So the more covetous we are not going to have the concentration of mind. And he's saying by attaining yoga, the concentration of mind. So we have heard kitna humne study kiya na what yoga is. So we have to go back to the root now. Yoga means to join. Join with who? The higher. So when I join with the higher, that is called yoga. The methods can be different for joining. Okay? And I want to bring a little bit to Bhagavad Gita here, that every chapter is called yoga of something. Okay? Karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. And the first chapter is Arjuna Vishada yoga. So somebody said, Arjun ka Vishad kaise yoga ho sakta bhai? वो तो बैठ के रो रहा था. And then we have discussed, it became the catalyst for him to get the Brahma Gyan. So it joined him with God. Because that's when जिसका विषाद वो कारण बन गया कि वो finally he bowed down to Krishna Bhagwan and said, I am your disciple, you are my teacher, teach me. Okay? So when all the sad things come, that can also become yoga for us. So we have to understand what context he's talking about. So here he's focusing on concentration of mind, which is called yoga, and that can be, and he's going to tell you how we are going to get to that. Okay? And now somebody else can read, but let me do this verse. This is of chapter 2, Valli 3, and 10 and 11, 2 verses together. Yada panchavatishtante gnanani manasa saha buddhishcha cha vicheshasti tamahu paramam gatim tam yogamiti manyante stiramin mindriya dharanam. Okay, who wants to read? Next person. Okay, here, Premji. Go ahead. Shireen, you can mute yourself. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I did it. When the five senses and mind become controlled and the intellect also becomes steady, then the stage is the highest. And that is called yoga by the great yogis of the past.
Okay, so here, if you guys remember, whoever was here, when we did chapter 2, the Lakshan of Sthita Prajna, when Arjuna asked that, hey, if there is one realized soul out there, how will he behave? What are the Lakshan? What are the characteristics of the realized soul? And Krishna Bhagwan had given the same thing. His five senses and mind have to be under his control. He has to be the master of them, not the slaves. And go back to that analogy of that ratha, that, five senses are your horses. If horses become boss, you will have an accident. So the horses are controlled by the mind, which is the reins, and reins is given in hand of Krishna Bhagwan. Sarathi is going to be our higher intellect, our prajna, our buddhi, purified intellect that's called. Okay, so here also he's exactly same verses there, that jiska intellect steady ban gaya ho because of his mind and senses of control, that stage is the highest and is called the yoga. So हमारे जितने भी उसको योगी बोलेंगे. Okay? Yogis of the past have said that. जिनको experience हो चुका है, वो आके बता रहे हैं कि योगी किसको कहते हैं. तो हम लोग खाली यहाँ सोचते हैं कि भाई किसी ने कोई एक्सरसाइज करके मास्टरी कर ली अपने आसना में तो वो योगी बन गया. No, that's not Vedantic. Okay? This is called the yogi. Okay.
Though ancient rishis call this Sthiram Indriya Dharanam.
Sthiram Indriya Dharanam.
Yeah. The control of the outer senses and inner mind as yoga, and though this is the real yoga which leads us to self-realization, perfection, eternal bliss, the word yoga is nowadays greatly misunderstood by the Eastern and the Western book readers. They think that yoga means some occult power or superhuman strength of the body and the senses. The exaggerated descriptions of the power of Kundalini and its awakening in the books on yoga make them eager to become a yogi. They want no realization of self. They never practice yoga for self-realization. Real yoga is concentration of mind according to the Upanishads, and that is to be practiced and attained by a spiritual aspirant.
So this is very simple what he's saying, that, and we know that in the Western world, the yoga,
Uma,
but
you
not
are
every.
mute.
Sorry.
You're mute.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Please unmute
Yeah.
yourself, Uma.
Yeah. Sorry.
Uma.
Yeah, I got it. I'm telling everybody and I'm not doing it. So I was just saying that this paragraph is very simple because we see the effect of this not understanding yoga so well in the West. And I'm not putting down everything because at least they are bringing this, some good things and are happening. But for our purposes, for Vedantic students, we should know the real meaning of yoga, what the purpose and all that. And not just ki Kundalini Shakti ko jagrit kar liya, siddhiyan mil gayi, vagara, vagara. No, it is for concentration of mind to get the self-realization. And, way back then, almost, 25 years ago, I had a yoga teacher come to my house and she used to always say that, we are doing this asana to catch the mind, okay? Remember that. And वो टाइम मेरे को उसकी बात इतनी समझ में नहीं आती थी, अभी ज़्यादा उसकी यह बातें याद आती है कि hey, you are doing this asana not for asana's sake, so don't just think like that. We're trying to catch your mind, through this, so that that sthirata comes, and then it goes into your mind. That's the whole purpose of doing this asana. So that's what he's talking about.
As there is no possibility of realizing the Atma without Vairagya and without concentration of mind, every aspirant must try to acquire these two at any cost. This is what the above mantra in Kathopanishad means to say. Therefore, first of all, be good, do good actions like the worship of God, like the meditation upon His form, constant remembrance of Him, and so on, and thus purify the mind. Practice upasana also, that is, do japa and meditation upon the form and qualities of a personal God. By practicing selfless service and upasana, the wavering state of mind will end, and the mind will become gradually purified. Then you will be able to undoubtedly realize the Atma, and therefore come to live in the Atman which you have intellectually understood by attending the discourse on Kathopanishad.
So this paragraph is very, very significant because it's telling you the methods. Okay? So then he has covered everything. He is saying that first be good, do good actions. So we Krishna Bhagavan giving us a very heavy dose on what good actions are on chapter 3 now in Bhagavad Gita. As the worship of God. Remember, उन्होंने भी बोल दिया यहाँ पर. Do the action as worship of God. Meditation upon His form. So this is when a personal God comes in. It's totally fine. We should not look down upon anybody who is doing a personal God, because that will purify his mind and he will have a deeper and deeper understanding if he's doing that correctly. So and then he's talking about do upasana, japa, meditation, and meditation upon the form and qualities of personal God. Because even Tapovanji Maharaj knows that for us to concentrate on the Nirakar is extremely difficult. It's a lot easier for the mind to waver. But if for my Ishtadevta is Krishna Bhagwan. So whenever I think of Krishna Bhagwan, makes me very happy, peaceful, joyful. Everybody can pick Shiva, whoever you want. Okay.
She's not coming.
So you want something to eat?
Wait, somebody's voice is coming through. Who is that?
Sheila.
Oh, Sheila ji has to mute. Yeah, so good. So, personal God in the beginning of the sadhana plays a very, very, very important role. Okay, so everybody can see where they are and they can do that. And so what does that do? That stops the wavering of the mind. Okay, and gradually gets purified. And then after intellectually, then you will be able to realize the Atman, because once we understand it intellectually, you will go a step further. Yeah. So understanding intellectually is also very, very important. If we know nothing about what God is, I have to study this to understand intellectually. And then I go further.
Never be satisfied by simply attending and hearing the discourses of Vedanta. Intellectual knowledge of Atma is only the first stage. Do not think it is the last and the final stage. Many ladders you have to climb on after the acquisition of this intellectual knowledge if you must have the bright vision and the blissful experience of Atma. That is the supreme Brahma Vidya, which the Kathopanishad teaches us. Try to reach that final stage by performing continuously severe spiritual sadhanas. Never feel contented with the preliminary intellectual knowledge of the Supreme Self in you. Strive to become and be.
So see how much he's hammering this, that just don't read it for the sake of reading, because like we discussed that every Upanishad has the power to give you self-realization. But if we keep reading it like an intellectual thing, so these saints and sages who have experienced that, they are telling us you will be missing out a huge part, the most important. Like we say in a banana, you are throwing away the banana and eating the peel kind of thing if you just do it for the sake of doing. So he's just telling you, please don't stop your sadhana, please don't give up, and please don't stop at intellectually understanding, and keep practicing until you become and be. So he's inspired us so much. So when we go in the actual Kathopanishad, so we will go with a better right attitude about it. Okay. So here, we can stop here because it's already like 12:17.
Should we read the blessings? Should we read the blessing to finish it?
Where is it? मेरे में यहाँ खत्म हो गया. उसके बाद अभी दूसरा चालू हुआ. क्या है आप में?
It's just a blessing. It says lectures are all good, clear, and highly useful to the beginner in Jnana Yoga. Philosophically, there is no contradiction in your utterance. With great and accredited principle of Vedant thought, with love and best wishes from Swami Tapuna.
Okay. Yeah, that paragraph is missing in mine because I have an old edition.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So we have, any question or comment on this particular thing that he's talking about that we just studied? No. So he must be a great inspiration that we all absorbed it, what he's saying. It's great.
This is what I have been emphasizing from the very beginning, that, acquiring knowledge is important, but putting it into practice is more important than keep acquiring and acquiring and acquiring. You may know so much, but if you don't put into practice, then we are not reaching to the actual goal. So, putting into practice is very, very important. And I'm very glad to see the meaning of yoga here. And this is what the actual meaning of yoga is.
See, when it comes to word yoga, it is again just like that Om word. It is huge and it has many aspects. So all the saints and Krishna Bhagwan ne 6 बार different definition बोला yoga का. Does that mean खाली वही है? No. Yoga is a very powerful word because what it is, it's a joining with that highest. So in that process, everything comes under. So he called it samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is evenness of mind. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. It is dexterity in action. Usko bhi yoga bola unhone. And then when we did the other Upanishad before Mandukya, there was Asparsha Yoga. Guys remember it? Whoever was there? Ki bhai, what is Asparsha Yoga? That, everything else you disconnect. See that? How many things come? And then abhi ek aayega Bhagavad Gita mein, yoga is viyog from the pains of life. Usko bhi yoga kaha. So each definition you have to absorb it at the end of Bhagavad Gita, then you will have a complete picture of what yoga is. So we will not
Yeah,
be.
if we understand the Ashtanga Yoga of Patanjali, I think that includes all aspects of yoga, all definitions of yoga. So if we go to the letter of Yam Niyam, what is that? Yam Niyam,
Pranayam, Asan, yeah, or Asan Pranayam. Sorry.
Yam Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, no.
Yam, Niyam,
my mind is-
Asan, Pranayam,
One of them is
Pratyahar,
Dhyan.
Dharana, Dharan, Samadhi. Those are the
Yam
ideas.
Niyam Asan as Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. I missed Pranayam.
Pratyahar.
Yam Niyam Pratyahar. Yam Niyam Pratyahar Pranayam. Asan, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi.
True.
So when we take it as a totality, that is yoga. So when Krishna Bhagwan is saying different definition at different aspects, that time they are covering only that aspect of yoga. So they give that definition. But if we have these, if you understand these all 8 steps of yoga, that is the complete definition of yoga.
See, you can take any great क्या बोलना चाहिए line of it. See, remember, Bhagavad Gita came before Patanjali. So what Patanjali took it is from all these. Because it is...
No, this is wrong. Bhagavad Gita didn't came before Patanjali.
According to you, when did
No. Patanjali is very, very old scripture.
Okay, let's not get into this. The reason we don't want to get into this argument, because when we talk about Bhagavad Gita, it is coming from Krishna Bhagwan, who is that Brahman. So remember we talked about it last time. It's a cyclic thing.
There is no doubt.
Yeah. So we cannot say that, hey, Patanjali, if somebody can understand it completely by Bhagavad Gita also, somebody can learn it from Patanjali, somebody can learn it from...
I'm not disputing this. I'm just saying that when Krishna Bhagwan or when in different scriptures we get different definitions, then sometimes we cover only one aspect, and that is also yoga. When we are saying yam part, that is a part of yoga too. So sometimes we are explaining only that part of yoga. Sometimes we are working only on asana, so we are explaining only that part of yoga.
Right.
But to understand yoga as a complete, we have to understand all 8 part of yoga.
Yeah, no.
So I'm not disputing that, whatever he gave the definition, they are wrong. No, not at all. So in different context, the different definitions are given.
So I think the conclusion over here is that it has to be holistic understanding of it. Even in Patanjali, if you're going to just, and then, long way back then when I came to this country, there were some women, who were in some yoga. They said they were doing yoga, and then they said, well, yeah, tell me, how to do this asana, but don't tell me how I should live my life. I don't want to do that. So I said, well, whatever I have learned from yoga, that's not what it means. According to Patanjali, if you are saying before you go to asana, you have to do yam and niyam. That means you have to have a discipline of your life, and you have to have a niyam, that how I do certain things, and then asana comes. And then if you want to go to meditation, it starts with dhyan, dharana, and samadhi. Before that, you have to do pratyahar. Okay, pratyahar means, not hoarding much like they were talking about, being greedy and all that. So what you're saying is absolutely true. It's the same concept. Chicken came or the egg came first. We are not fighting about that. But Bhagavad Gita has every aspect. And Mandukya Upanishad has every aspect. This one has every aspect.
These are all same. They came from the same source.
Yes.
So there is no dispute about it at all.
So if somebody...
We are not disputing that it's better and which one is not.
Right. So as long as we have that understanding that, hey, and that's why I keep repeating over here, no one method is better than the other. You can choose from the buffet what appeals to you. Okay? There's a whole array of buffet. Everybody can choose.
Yeah, I would just like to summarize what we have all learned. So I think this Kathopanishad, what we are doing is really very good because it is talking about only the Atma. And what is the Atma is it's pure, it is full of bliss. So when you are blissful, then you know your, you know your Atma. And how do you attain Atma? How do you know? It's not like you're attaining an apple or you're doing this. You can't attain it. You have to realize it. And how do you realize the Atma? Is by pure thought, pure action, and all that. And also with pure mind. And you have to be calm. And that's when you realize the Atma. So that's what this whole chapter is about.